All right, here we go.
Wow. So DC Comics might actually be going out of business. What do you think, Gus?
Do I look like a fucking nerd? I don't read comics, jackass.
I was just asking your opinion. Do you think DC Comics is gonna get canceled?
Again, do I look like a fucking nerd?
You know what? Never mind. Just never mind. Okay, Gus? Damn.
Yeah, I don't think I can make fun of Steve Shives' stuffed animal videos. I always found those a little weird, but yeah, this is far worse than those. But yeah, no, I've seen that. Some talk there. There might be crossovers, there might not. Marvel's kind of anti-crossover right now. DC's pretty crossover heavy. They've had some pretty weird ones going around. Yeah. This is more like I think kind of like needle drop kind of cutaway comedy stuff, or at least what we'll see with the next bit. But yeah.
Anyway, guys, this doesn't look good for DC Comics. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel once again. I am Robert Storms. As always, if you're finding me for the very first time, please be sure to hit that.
Yeah, he's got to fix his glasses. It's really annoying. I don't know if that's just a bit he's doing at this point or what, but yeah. Well, it's not my kind of stuff, so I don't know. But yeah, I don't fault anybody that enjoys it, but yeah, it's not my thing. Yeah, the glasses I get them fixed. I don't know what's going on. Oh.
That like and subscribe button. All the likes count. The more likes you guys get, the more YouTube shares this video, and the more views I get, the more subscribers I can build. Trying to get to 30,000 subscribers by the end of the year. But anyway, guys, let's talk about DC.
Oh my God! Tell me it's not true, Rob. Tell me it's not true.
Now what the hell is going on?
I heard a rumor that DC might be going out of business.
Yeah, I might be canceled over that. Oh no, but this is funny. This is what he thinks of his audience right here. I hope so. You cancel me all the way then. Give me up to 100,000, 1 million subs. We'll do that. Cancel away.
And some crazy asshole told me that Marvel was gonna buy it. That can't happen. It can't, Rob. Tell me it's not true, Rob. Tell me it's not true.
There's rumors about it, yeah.
I literally can't handle this. I think I'm gonna have a heart attack. I just can't deal with this.
I swear, everybody's losing their damn.
That's his. That's how he sees his audience is right there. That's kind of funny. Like, I don't know how you can like his channel and turn around and see him do that to you and think that he respects you in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, there aren't really rumors to this effect. It's really funny how this little corner of the internet gets all their information and kind of spreads it around. But it's really funny, yeah. Oh yeah, he doesn't mean you. Yeah. Oh, didn't mean to do that.
Damn mind. Okay, so let me try to explain what's going on here, people. Because yesterday I got a lot of messages from people saying, hey, did you hear Marvel's buying DC Comics? That's not accurate. That's not true. There's rumors about it. I don't think that's happening. So what's going on is, if you guys don't know, comic books haven't been selling that well. Either Marvel or DC, it doesn't matter. Comics haven't been selling that well. And we heard rumblings, I think, like...
Well, so this is kind of funny. So I don't know what he's going to try to compare it to, sales-wise. But if you compare it to the 90s, yeah, comics aren't selling like they did in the 90s. But if you go to sources that'll track that data, like Comicron, they'll say that it was unsustainable in the 90s to begin with. It was a big bubble, an investment bubble that you're not going to see it again, and it wasn't sustainable at the time. If you look at go through like Comicron, and I think it's ICV2 that does a lot of the sales watch, especially for the digital stuff. Comic book industry is doing just fine right now. At least the big two are. It's been 2019. I think it was almost like $1.1 billion in sales through Diamond and through digital means and stuff for the estimate. So it's not dying as an industry. It's just not what it was. Yeah, well, see, the thing in the '90s was that it was a investor boom, right? So you have all the old comics from the '40s that were selling for a shit ton of money, and then so what they did is they made all these variants and all these kind of exploitative practices, drove up the numbers. Like there was, what was it, the rebranded X-Men books that came out. What was it, 8 million copies sold for the first issue of those back then? Yeah, it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't going to last. It was all just investor stuff and speculation. And so when everybody got caught holding the bags and they spent, thousands of dollars on comics that weren't worth much because of the large print runs, they left. And it really hurt the comics industry. But yeah, right now they're doing fine. Sales are growing, revenue-wise and stuff like that. There's been talk about more stores closing than opening. But like I said, I go through Comic-Con, who follows that and kind of analyzes that data, and it seems to be flat in terms of openings and closings. So for every store that closes, there's one that's opens. So it's not anywhere there, and they'll focus on like single issue floppy sales through Diamond and stuff, and that's not the prime market in terms of what they're selling. So as the market's changed, it's to graphic novels. Right, and so graphic novels they can sell through bookstores, Amazon, all that other stuff without the prices that Diamond takes to distribute them. Yeah, so that's what there. But yeah, and it's a lot in the graphic novels. So like I can go walk over to bookstores and pick up, if you go to a bookstore anymore, the few that still exist. But I can go over there and pick up, my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, anything in the graphic novel form. It's the floppies that aren't selling like they used to, and that seems to be the only one that they care about. But yeah, the industry as a whole, it's making more money.
Like a year ago, that Disney was talking about shutting down the Marvel Comics division. So this stuff does get talked about a lot. Well, now there are rumors that AT&T might be...
All right, so this is where the rumor comes from, that AT&T might close Disney. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Comicsgate going around. That started, 3 years ago maybe now? But, yeah. So the rumor comes from Ethan Van Sciver, who is a long-term artist in the industry, 27 years or something, but he came out as a Comicsgater, claimed that the industry blacklisted him, all this other stuff, kicked him out, kicked him to the curb because he was against the SJW stuff. So now he's got a YouTube channel, about 150,000 subs, that he spreads this stuff on. So this is the origin of the rumor that it's going to close down. And it came after Dan DiDio's firing a little over a week ago. And it's just stuff he's pulled out of his ass, or it seems that way. Like, if you believe his story that he's been blackballed by the industry, I can't imagine there's very many people he has sources to that would be high enough in DC to give him these kind of rumors, right? So either he was never blackballed, or he's blackballed and he's just talking out his ass. But this is where it's coming from.
Shutting down the DC comic book division. And the reason for that is, and the reason why some of these rumors have some kind of weight, is because recently, about 2 days ago, AT&T fired one of the co-publishers at DC Comics. He was coming up with this crazy-ass 5G thing, where like the 5th generation, where they would basically just get rid of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, and all these popular characters like Flash and Green Lantern, and they were just going to usher in all new characters to take their place so they can build these new generations of superheroes. And a lot of the writers, they went up against it. They're like, hey.
Yeah, so this is probably the one shred of truth in this stuff, because it's been reported by more legitimate news sources that follow the comics industry, with the fallout. Who's it? Scott Snyder, I think is his name, that works on the Batman comics. Kind of butted heads with DiDio over this new 5G event. Now, I don't think, from what I know, the DC 5G isn't going to get rid of the characters like that. It's kind of the mantle building stuff where you'll have a different character step in as Batman for a while, which they've done countless times before. Like, it's nothing new. But it's the whole, oh, we don't want a black Batman kind of thing. But, you know, kind of like the Marvel Now stuff with, you know, Youre stepping in as Iron Man for a little bit before being spun out as, what is her thing? Ironheart, I think, is her. Right, so let's see. Yeah, it's giving me all this other stuff that's not with it. So here's the rumors on what's going on with the. Oh no, this is Bounding into Comics. Another one I don't want to read. Yeah, so well, I don't know the full details on everything that's changing with it, but yeah, I'm sure some of the characters are going to be sidelined for a little bit. But I mean, this happens in comics all the time. It's one of the reasons I don't read the big two books, because just how they do their universe, it's all one event. It's all geared towards money making and stuff and different things that I just don't support with my stories. Doesn't mean that they're bad or written poorly, but I like I like in the indie stuff. So I'll go with like Hellboy and stuff. You get to a point in Hellboy where the story changes and it kind of sticks, right? And so they keep building off of that, and it just doesn't get rebooted. It's not, oh, we're gonna start fresh again, give you these new characters, and sit in this weird status quo that we can never leave. And so that's what I like about the indie comics. But yeah, things change over time, you know.
Hey, look, this is ridiculous. We're working on this. You can't do this. I'm not going to do this. And eventually, it led to that guy, Dan Dio, being let go of DC Comics. He's been there for many, many years. And now with AT&T saying, look, if this fifth generation thing don't work, we might be shutting down DC Comics. So here's what I think, and this is why look, do I think there are talks about DC Comics being shut down? Yes, I think there's talks about Marvel Comics being shut down, because it's almost a dead medium nowadays. It really is.
I mean, it really isn't. I mean, 1.1 billion in what is it, 2018, which is the last full year that we have estimates for. So I'd imagine it's 1.1 billion or more again this year in terms of sales and revenue. And yeah, so it's not dying, it's not going anywhere there. It's just not what it was in the 90s that these people think it should be. And you're never going to get that again. It's because we have digital now. Even though digital hasn't really grown to fill up the big market share and stuff, it's something going forward that it's going to be more and more people are going to go that way. And then you have the trades. So the floppies aren't the most important thing, right? So you put them out month to month for the collectors, you know, that want to collect the runs and do all that other stuff. But for the larger portion of your audience, it's the graphic novels that you can sell on Amazon or in stock trades if you go through there. But yeah, that's where they're making most of their money.
A massive comic book fan. I had a large collection. I had to sell my collection after I got into a car accident, and I canceled my subscription. I canceled my subscription for a couple reasons. One,
yeah, I don't know, I mean, I get it, because I don't quite like all the big reboots to these massive universes, and I don't like going, you know, you spend 2 years or whatever with this new unique story, but eventually it's gonna revert back to the quote-unquote classic status quo, right? And so that's why I don't read a whole lot of the big two stuff, right? I read indie for the reason that it does change, and it stays changed, and they deal with the consequences in the story. But yeah, it's there's a new reboot. Oh, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that, and now that there's this big cottage industry online where you can shit on SJWs and stuff like that, you know, blame all sorts of problems that you can't connect the dots to anywhere, that SJWs are ruining comics. You know, it's just sit here so you can feed the algorithm for it. Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting if they do a crossover. They've done it in the past, the amalgam universe stuff. Um, so yeah, we'll see. Oh god, why does it do that when I click?
One, it was getting too expensive. Okay, Marvel and DC comics are really expensive. Marvel comics are sometimes $5.99, $6 for one comic. Same thing goes with DC. I don't think they're as expensive as Marvel, but they're pretty expensive too, especially when you compare them to like an Image comic, where Image comics are usually $2.99. Another thing is,
So I don't know about the Image comic stuff, but I know my comics are $4 or $5 from the IDW and stuff I pick up for each issue, and that's not stopping me buying them. And IDW has a habit of doing double length issues that are $8 a pop, right? And so you have those, and if you get into when they do some of those weekly events, there's months where I spend $40 just on that month's Turtle comics and the spin-offs. So it's not a money thing. I don't think too much that's keeping people away, right? Part of it is for like if you want to go pick up the floppies, is just stores are way the hell out of the place, So I drive 45 minutes to get to the comic shop one way. I'll pick up 2-3 issues of whatever it is I'm reading, and then I come back. So it's a ways out of there if you want to go get the floppies. It's really hard, and there are some places online you can buy like Things from Another World. Does a really good job of shipping single issues and boarding them correctly and stuff so they don't get ruined. So if you're going to do it that way, you can do it that way. But then you have the shipping costs on top of it. So yeah, it's just there's not enough of them anymore like there used to be. Now they're staying steady. They're not all closing and stuff there. So if you live way the hell way out in the boonies like I did growing up, I could only look at comics that were sitting on, say, the local. Well, it wouldn't have been Walgreens at the time, but the equivalent of like a Walgreens or something like that, where you'd have the few of the Archie issues and stuff like that available to pick from and look at. But so I don't think it's necessarily the price of the comics that are hurting the floppies. It's just comics collecting and the floppies and getting all these runs and stuff, picking them up like that. That's a niche hobby now.
these are corporate characters. Nothing ever changes with these characters. Spider-Man is pretty much the same character now.
Yeah, I didn't have any Eckards off there. Yep, CVS would be there. Yeah, I didn't have an Eckards over by us. We had some really weird, like really local ones that might dox me giving away some of the local names and stuff there. But yeah, that's just kind of how small a town I grew up in the 90s.
Now as he was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Same thing goes with Superman and Batman. And every time they do make changes to the characters, they do some kind of stupid-ass crossover event that basically resets the whole status quo, and all the different changes they made of Spider-Man or Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman or all these other characters gets reset. They do something interesting in New 52, and then guess what? Rebirth comes out and everything's reset again.
Yeah, like I tried when this is when I took New 52 was my first step into the big two comics outside of collecting like the trade paperbacks of like specific classic runs and stuff. But I was like, oh, they're gonna do a whole new reboot. I'll get into this here and we'll start reading and stuff there. And yeah, they just didn't stick with the changes. They dropped everything and did all this other stuff. But I mean, these are what they would say in other cases, trying to appeal to. Now they'll say they're not trying to appeal to their fans; they're appealing to some niche SJW group that just doesn't buy comics, which isn't the case. But this is more them trying to find what they can to keep selling and keep sales above a certain threshold. Yeah, the New 52 was really interesting. There's still a couple of them I've heard that I haven't gotten on, like what was it, Animal Man? I heard was pretty good. I think that's what I'm thinking of. But yeah, shared the page in the after show. Let's. What is this one? Oh, So why some god, a god of emerald light, a god of speed of strength. And this was in a Marvel book, or was this at the end of a DC book? That would be pretty big crossover and do pretty good results, I think.
They do something in Marvel with Spider-Man and all these other characters. They do Secret Wars and everything gets resetted again. They constantly do this in comics all the time, and you're just spending money upon money, and nothing ever changes. And people are getting tired of doing.
I mean, they wouldn't do these all the times if you'd buy the books regularly. Like the event books are what sell. I mean, I'm sorry, that's what the market has told them they want, is these big events. Even if they really don't want them, according to him. Or at least in his case, my case, these aren't the kind of things we want. But yeah, the new Thor #2. That's interesting. So I wonder if there's probably some equivalents you could probably argue so that it kind of, it's going to be them, but it hints at the DC characters. But
Doing that, and that's another reason why I canceled my subscription. Image Comics, Boom Comics, and Dynamite Comics, these are not corporate characters. They own these characters, and they do something completely different. There was an arc in Invincible, one of my favorite comic books of all time.
they're still corporate characters, right? I mean, for the most part, especially if you look at Boom and stuff. Like Boom does a lot of maybe they have their own. Obviously, they have their own characters and stuff, but the big ones that Boom's publishing right now is Power Rangers, right? That's a corporate character. They have events and stuff. And yeah, Image has a lot of their own things there, but Image, for the most part, outside of Spawn or The Walking Dead before that, doesn't sell anywhere near the Marvel stuff. Why does it keep taking me out of there?
When the main character, Mark Grayson, gets raped by a female villain. He gets thrown to the ground and raped by her. And that set major repercussions in that story in the Invincible comics. And they didn't reset it like it never happened. It happened. And Mark had...
Well, so then some of these stories do occur in DC and Marvel and stuff too that stick around and are kind of important to their characters and stuff. So I don't know, but it's kind of interesting that it's the rape aspect is the first thing that he wants and he likes, right? Especially when it's a woman on a man kind of thing that fits into a lot of the anti-SJW MRA stuff, which is fine. You can tell that story. It's interesting that that's the one he picks up and takes with, right? It's not say Hellboy where he dies and he stays dead for the most part. I still have to read the last 15 issues of BPRD that he shows back up in, but yeah. But they get down to the point where they kill the main character and he stays dead. You have what is it, 8 issues? That's all they did in Hell before he finally said, "Oh, that's the end of Hellboy's story." But this is irritating me.
To learn to live with him being raped. You don't see that in Marvel and DC. You don't see Catwoman raping Batman. You don't see Black Cat raping Spider-Man because these are corporate.
Oh man, he's really obsessed with rape for some reason in here. But no, you see this stuff. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, they do this stuff with like Barbara Gordon and the Joker and stuff, which very least implied rape in some of their stuff. But yeah, it's done in those comics, right? Even as corporate characters, and they do really like the comics compared to a lot of the other medium are way kind of crazy in some of the stuff they do. Like, goddamn, there's that whole, I think it was in the New 52, but there's a whole bit where Joker's running around with his face stapled to his face. Right? Really weird thing. But yeah. Yeah, there's substance abuse that's a problem, right? And especially if you go to the Marvel characters are almost all miserable kind of stories and problems and stuff like that builds character. I mean, that's what they're famous for. So, I don't know. But yeah, not everything has to be rape, and rape isn't something that's makes stories better inherently. But yeah, it's really weird.
characters, they have to do certain things. Where in Image Comics, Dynamite Comics, they have the ability to do their own thing. And again, comics aren't selling. People aren't buying comic books nowadays. Another reason why I got rid of my subscription is because it is easier for me to go to a store, buy a tablet the size of a comic book, and sign up for Marvel Unlimited or DC Universe, where I have the entire library at my fingertips. Sure, I don't get day one releases of the comics, but 6 months from now, they all get released on Marvel Unlimited, so I can just read them as they come. I don't have to go to a store and buy these comics and then have to worry about storing in 50 long boxes. I don't have to worry about having a whole closet full of comics.
Yeah, and that's nice about digital, is that you can get it all and do all that stuff there. But yeah, it's not like, I don't particularly like digital. I like the floppies in my hand reading them, or in the trade paperback, but I've read some stuff digitally when I've had to. How you doing, Polly Dolly? I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Comic books that I don't know what I'm going to do with when I can have everything on a tablet. So yes, it makes sense that these companies are going to want to close their comic book divisions at some point, because A, they're not making money, and B, it's a dead medium. People are more concerned about...
I mean, they are making their money. I mean, $1.1 billion. They're making money, right? It's actually the smaller creators, that, or smaller publishers, that aren't. Just doing a stream about the deb. Worried about lack of education. I'm not sure what that means. If you want to elaborate. Oh, come on, play.
Video games, movies, and television. And that's just the sad truth of the era we live in. You know, back in the day, comic books sold a lot because there wasn't a whole lot of entertainment. You had a TV with maybe 3 channels and then a radio. That was it. Things are different nowadays. Everything, we're going into the digital age. Do I think Marvel's going to buy DC? No. To me, I think that's ludicrous, because Marvel is in the same position as DC is, and Marvel, their comics aren't selling all that well either.
Oh boy. Yeah. If you're going with yeah, alright. No, we're kind of well aware of some of this stuff, so we got a nice little stroll in here if moderators want to take care of them. Well, can I do it from right here? So yeah, go ahead, mods. You can take care of them, and oh, here, I can do it right from this. Let's there we go. Yeah, we're not going to let any of the white genocide stuff in here on the channel. I'm sorry. Take your conspiracy theory elsewhere. Why does it keep clicking out?
I do think we're going to get to a day where the comic book divisions will be closed and are no longer going to sell physical comics. I do think comics will always last, but I think they're going to be all digital. I think...
So then the comics divisions wouldn't close. How stupid of a comment is that? Right? So even if they're doing digital, all digital, they won't, because all digital doesn't rack up the type of money as the physical stuff does. At least yet. But I mean, it stayed pretty steady since coming. Oh, no problem, Mrs. Snarky. I thought it might be interesting, but yeah, once I started seeing, I saw the Muslims in Europe comment, I'm like, oh no, here we come. Coming on with the trolls. But yeah. So yeah, the comics divisions are still going to be there even if they go all digital.
Marvel and DC is going to close their publishing, and they're going to focus on digital comics. And I think it'll be much better for everybody involved, because now you're not paying the artists, the writers, the letterers, the inkers, the colorists. You're not paying all them.
I mean, you are paying all of them. How stupid is this motherfucker? Like, I'm telling you. He has no clue how comics are made. Like, even if you do it all online, all digitally, right? You still need the artist to draw the stuff, right? You still need, if you do it, if they don't ink their own stuff, they're gonna have an inker or some other digital artist that does it. If they don't color their stuff, right? You're still gonna have a colorist and stuff like that. I mean, the writers are still gonna have to be paid to write. All that stuff's gonna be there. I don't get what his argument is.
Them paying for all the materials that you need to publish, like the inks and the papers, to publish physical comics. You can just pay the artist, and the writers, and you just put it out digitally, and you make a profit. That's the reason why video games are going digital, because so many people would rather buy digital video games instead of having physical games, and the corporations aren't paying for the discs or the cartridges or the cases and all that stuff. We are getting into a digital age, and with comic books not selling as much as they used to, corporations like AT&T and Disney is not going to sit there and justify why Marvel Comics and DC Comics aren't making profits. And why are they spending all this money? I do think physical comic books will live on with like Image Comics and Boom Comics, Dynamite Comics, these smaller comic book companies that know what they're trying.
Yeah, no, I mean, if Marvel and DC quit publishing floppies, those companies are are more dead than they are now, right? Like, if nobody's going to the comic book stores and picking up single issues of a lot of those companies' books. Goddamn notifications. But yeah, they're not picking them up. So if those floppies come off the shelf that are going to draw the people in, you know, your Batmans, your Supermans, your Spider-Mans, those are the ones that are selling the most. It's not going to be filled from it, right? So if they go out, those comics companies are done as well, like, and probably more so because a lot of those guys are losing money and doing stuff, and it's not because they're not putting out good products. It's just that people generally just want the big two books, right? Yeah, I saw that page, Alhana. Yeah, it looks like they're probably setting up for a big crossover. Would be interesting. But yeah, I think we've reached about the end of his video, and I don't think there's going to be anything else new or important. So we'll look at South Carolina primary results.